Hi, welcome back to a brand new video of the Targeted Individual Program, Target Individual Programming, Target Individual Experience. I'm going to use that from now on. Target Individual Program, Target Individual Programming, and Target Individual Experience. So the New York Predator Department, again, had me on the remote no monitoring, basically reading my thoughts as I was typing what is suggestive, hypersuggestive programming, okay, or otherwise known as hypersuggestibility, okay. And I had gotten a text from another TI in California, Alda Misteriosa, and she was talking about the hypersuggestibility that they were doing to her and how she starts, as TIs, you've been through this. For those of us who've been through this for a very long time, who've done research, not just on technology that's being used on us, but also the psychological manipulation, also the drugging, the covert warfare, the neurocognitive warfare, and the uh, cognitive warfare, as well as the curse and persuasion programming, again, which hypersuggestibility plays a big part of it. And I always talk about how drugs is something that they'll do to you as a TI. They will drug you in order to soften you up, right? To soften up your mind, so you can be easily programmed. All right. So when I say the word program, the New York Predator Department will start using these sirens because they don't want me to use certain terms, certain words, because again, credibility is very important, and they will try to destroy our credibility. They will try to destroy our names, our character, our likeness, and so forth. Right? Because this is how they demonize you within a society. And what the society does not realize also is they themselves are victims of hypersuggestibility. Okay, so I'm just going to read what I use Google AI. I also have there's an article from Science Direct which talks about particularly manipulation using hypnotic suggestions and so forth. All right, well, let's begin. All right, hypersuggestive programming, as it says, is not a standard term, but it's likely referred to either hypersuggestibility in the context of hypnosis or the concept of predictive programming. So they go from predictive programming to now predictive policing. All right, I want you guys to understand the connection here. And when I talk about how they create the criminal mindset, they create the criminals and they come with the solution, right? Which, Bob Marley said you cannot expect justice in a society and a world run by criminals. He's absolutely right. Okay. So, but it's likely refers to either hypersuggestibility in the context of hypnosis or the concept of predictive programming. So, like I said, these predictive concepts have been done before in other forms, right? And now what's coming in the future, okay, is actually it's already here. It's predictive policing, basically using AI, basically creating a mindset within the individuals or the individual in which they already know how that individual is going to behave and act, right? Because they have been programmed to behave and act in a certain way. Okay. Predictive programming, which suggests media is used to pre-program people's mind with ideas. And absolutely, I've been over the weekend, like I said, I've been binge watching Roswell, New Mexico on Netflix. Now, if you haven't seen it, you will see how particularly women are being used and manipulated, right? Using these television shows, and where you have a bunch of women who is sleeping with a whole bunch of men, all within the same circle. It's kind of like that. The show on Netflix also, American. What is it called? American Athlete, something like that. I can't remember the name of it, But again, where you have the an American athlete. I think it's American athlete, something like that, right? But it has to do with these young people, teenagers, and then they go to college. And I think this the past 2 seasons they're in college, right? But they're all sleeping with each other, right? And they're like, I think in one of the episodes they call it uh, a circle or something like that, right? And so, you see the same thing in Roswell, New Mexico, where you have these women who are just going from one relationship to another relationship and back to the same relationship, then go back to another relationship and so forth. So these are hypersuggestive programming using television shows, using media, as well as movies and so forth. Okay? These things are real. I want people to understand that. The people who write these shows are being directed to create certain things in which they can manipulate society. Okay? And if you, like I said, don't, I don't want you to believe me. I want you to know. So if you get a chance, go look at that show. Okay? Those shows, all right? American athlete. I think I'm not sure what it's called. It's either American Athlete or something like that. And then Roswell, New Mexico. Okay? So, hypersuggestibility is a state of heightened receptiveness to suggestion, a key characteristics of hypnosis. Predictive programming is not a conspiratorial theory. Let's get that straight. You can look at media, you can look at shows, right? Where they used to have shows about family to now where you see most of these shows, particularly on cable and these streaming networks, they're all about hypersexuality. A lot of them is about religion, right, and so forth, and getting that bag, right, and so forth. So they are shaping the minds of young people, so that when it takes a generation to create a new mindset. I said a generation, but it takes a decade to create a new mindset within a person. Okay, know that they can change your mindset to a complete 180. All right, so predictive programming is a conspiratorial theory that media subtly uh, influences the public to accept future events or ideas. I want you guys to think about this. All right, not only think about it, but look and see what has been happening over the past decade and a half. Okay, and particularly when it comes to the trans issue, where you have a very small group of people who the liberal white Democrats have somehow put on this pedestal, right? But always remember that this is what they do to get you to accept certain things, because ultimately you need to understand what is transhumanism, right? Because transhumanism is all encompass BCI, predictive programming, predictive policing, all these things has to do with transhumanism, and as well as um, uh, depopulation. Okay, so where was I? All right, so predictive programming is a conspiratorial theory, which again is not conspiratorial. They say this, and AI will say you got to understand who programs AI. So you have to look outside of other sources for the information, because AI will mislead you. Okay, so predictive programming is a theory. I'm not going to say conspiratorial. Is a theory that media subtly influences the public to accept future events or ideas, often described as a form of spiritual or metaphysical suggestion. right? Now, being a TI and being a coercive in a mind control program, or coercive persuasion program, or thought reform program, one of the things they do, because again, I want you to understand how they use psychology, use technology, okay, use medicine, drugs, all these things together. It's a combination is what is called the cognitive warfare and the neurocognitive warfare domain. All right. So Robert J. Lipton, the seven, what is it, the 7 or 8 step of thought reform, and one of them is mystical manipulation or supernatural manipulation. Is to do things in a way in which the person have this so-called supernatural experience, right? Mystical experience, right? But these things are planned and coordinated in a way in which you, the intended target or targets, cannot see. So therefore, because of your belief system, you think of it as something that's being supernatural, right? Now, hypersuggestibility in hypnosis. This refers to an individual heightened ability to respond to suggestions during the hypnotic state. Key idea: a person is much more receptive to suggestion from the hypnosis than they would be in a normal or wakened state. Examples: a person might experience sensory hallucination, like the smell of a lemon, or an involuntary movement when prompted. Predictive programming. This is a theory that media, particularly movies, televisions, and other forms of entertainment, can be used to pre-program the public with ideas, themes, and images. Key idea: the goal is to make these ideas seem normal or inevitable when they are later introduced in the real world. Now, what have I been saying? I've been saying the exact same thing. Okay? Examples from a metaphysical perspective: this is seen as a form of collective manifestation or consent via symbolism. I talk about how, particularly us as black people, we love symbolic stuff. We love symbolic shit. We love the symbolism that is thrown in front of us to make us feel good, to make us accept certain things. Okay? In summary, hypersuggestive programming combines the idea of hypersuggestibility, suggestible state hypnosis with the idea of external programming, predictive programming, although it's important to recognize that these two are distinct concepts. Okay? And this is the website here, sciencedirect.com. Okay, so I just wanted to touch on this because, again, of what they've been doing, particularly over the weekend, right? Particularly, for instance, Thursday, and how they do things to create a narrative, a false narrative, that is. And as TIs, they want to have us and keep us under surveillance. We are not a threat to national security or public safety, but this is how they get away with non-consensual human experimentation, particularly illegal microchipping. And they have to lie about it. They're not going to tell the public how they drug you and I. They're not going to tell the public how they manipulate us using psychological manipulation, using covert warfare. They're not going to say these things. They're not going to tell the public about the weaponization of the electromagnetic spectrum, of using silent sound spread spectrum technology to manipulate and program our minds. They're not going to tell you these things. They're not going to tell you the truth, right? Even though you can go and look at the Google pattern. Right? It's a pattern on Google, right? Not Google pattern, but you can go to Google and look at the pattern on what is called silent subliminal carrier waves. Okay? And, like I said, the legal implantation of microchip for the purpose of remote monitoring. All right? So, that being said, talk to you guys in the next video.